Ever pinch pennies all year for that one family vacation only to feel the budget blues afterwards? If so, I was just like you. After 3 vacation years, I won record word travel and cracked the code to a vacation site for.
Welcome to Wonderland on Points. Inside Hyatt, you discover how credit cards strategically continue thousands of travel. We're not just searching anymore for two and future moms. Her dreams in Greece
Is reserved for those
Reagan right here in Washington, D.C. And we ended up doing the transfer of points from Amex to Hawaiian over to Alaskan because we saw it advertised that there were a couple of business class seats on an American Airlines flight if we booked through Alaska. And the crazy thing was I had already booked directly with American, and I was really just trying to get my friends on the same flight. We were trying to coordinate. I actually had booked, I think, more than one flight, changed it again, trying to coordinate everybody. And so we saw these business class flights, and I realized that it was cheaper through Alaska to get these business class seats than it was my economy seat that I'd booked directly with American.
Yep.
So immediately I snatched up a business class seat. Heather snatched up a business class seat. And then Lindsay went to snatch up a business class seat. And if you have been on my Instagram at Family Travel for the Win, you may have seen a little reel that I made circa the movie Bridesmaids. If
Such a
anyone
good movie.
remembers, a classic.
Classic.
Kristen Wiig has a situation where she got trapped in economy. The rest of the bridal party was in business class, and she's like sneaking up, peeking through the curtain. And so my friend Lindsay she made the most of it. She totally played that up, and we just had our own little bridesmaids moment. We did feel truly horrible about her being in economy, but not bad enough to move to economy ourselves.
Especially not when you have to pay more to do it. And I was supposed to be back there in economy with her because obviously you guys snagged the first two, and this all happened before I had canceled. So poor Lindsay was all by herself in her hat that said, "Help me, I'm poor," which is a quote from the movie. And she made that hat specifically for this journey. So she was just a trooper. But tell us about the business class on this flight. And also, was it like 20,000 points if I'm remembering correctly?
Was it less than that?
Are you serious? I don't even remember.
I think it was 18,000 points, if I'm remembering correctly. We were economy from DCA down to Miami, but the second leg from Miami to St. Kitts, we were business class. The fun thing about it, even though it was only about a 3-hour flight in business class, little under 3-hour flight, it's an international flight. So what that meant was in Miami, we got to go into the AA, the Admirals Club Lounge. You don't get that with domestic business class, but you do get that with international business class. So Heather and I hopped in there. Our layover was pretty quick, so we didn't have a lot of time to enjoy it, but we did go check it out and grab a few things. We brought Lindsay a couple things out from the lounge because once again, she was left on the outside, but always a good sport. Always a good sport.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So comfortable seats.
It looked like a domestic business class flight.
Okay.
So they were bigger seats, but we did get served a full meal, a full lunch. I got some steak. We had cheesecake. It was amazing. All of it was just absolutely delightful, fun. We just felt so special up there in business class. And to think that we paid less than I had paid for economy directly through American was just crazy. So
crazy.
we just splurged because it was a special trip. We thought it's available. Let's go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was Mary Ellen's like birthday girls trip. So wish her a happy birthday, even though it's not quite happening yet. It was a pre-birthday trip. That was the occasion. So you deserve to sit in business class for your birthday. Let's talk about the St. Kitts Airport and what do people need to do to prepare? What's it like? Talk us through that.
Yeah, it's a tiny airport. As you can imagine, St. Kitts and Nevis are tiny little sister islands. So you land in St. Kitts. It's just one strip to, take off and land on the airport, one runway. And then when you deplane, you go down steps outside and then walk to the airport and go inside for customs, which I think is always kind of fun. It
I think
depends
so
on the
too. I've only
situation.
done it once, but it kind of felt like a movie.
Right, right, especially on a tropical island. I really kinda liked that. But customs didn't take very long. We again, Heather and I were in business class, so we were some of the first off the flight, so we breezed right through customs, but you can fill out a form online ahead of time, which I realized the night before we left. We stayed at an airport hotel because our flight was leaving so early in the morning, and while we were there, I sent everybody a link. I was like, hey, let's fill out this customs form ahead of time so we're prepared. Well, Lindsay, who was back in economy, she ended up being one of the last people off the plane because in St. Kitts, you actually deplane, at least from American flights, from both the front of the plane and the back of the plane at the same time. So the people who are last end up being the people in the middle of the plane, which Lindsay was. And
Bizarre.
so she said, I know, it is a little bizarre. By the time she came through customs, she was at the back of the line, and it did take quite a while for her to get through. Not like an hour, but 30 minutes or so. And she said, I actually wish I hadn't filled out that form because they do have some machines off to the side, and those people enter a different customs line. And she said the line with people who had done the online form actually ended up being longer than if she had just done the form from the kiosk that was there. So,
Mhm. Good
you
information.
know, depending on where you are on the plane, if you're in the middle of the plane, maybe try your luck at just doing the form right when you arrive.
Okay, talk about when we are leaving and what security is like there because goodness knows security is different everywhere you go. I always get flagged for liquids in St. Louis, never happens in Atlanta. Just talk us through it.
It is so random. It's so different everywhere. But
It's annoying.
St. Kitts, it's so annoying. It is a small airport, like I said. It does have some other flights. We left on a Saturday, and there was a Delta flight that was leaving. There was another airline, I can't remember what it was, that was leaving, all semi near the same time frame. And so security was very backed up. Very
Mm.
backed up. So it depends on which day of the week you fly out. But if it's a day that St. Kitts has several flights leaving, you need to actually prepare to be to the airport very early. Because sometimes you think, oh, a small airport, we're just going to get there. We'll breeze right through security. You don't have to walk very far. So it's not going to take long. Well, it might. It might at St. Kitts. So definitely prepare ahead of time. They are very strict on the liquids. So you need to have a baggie, a little quart size baggie. You can only have one bag per person. They will take your stuff and throw it away.
I'm so bad at that. I'm so bad at that. The quart size bag kills me. Give me a gallon. Give me a gallon
Yeah.
size bag. Okay. I keep everything
No,
in travel size
they're not doing that.
containers. So silly. It's so silly. And some airports truly do not care. I've come through with 3 quart size baggies or a full
Oh,
gallon
yeah.
baggie. As long as the individual products are under 3.4, it's always been fine. But I guess that is a good thing for people to know in advance.
Yeah. Heather had like a really nice face cream, and it was in her second of her 2 quart size bags, and they were making her throw all that stuff away. And she was like, absolutely, now you give me that face cream back right now. And she squeezed it in her other bag. So I'm not kidding. They take it real serious down there. So
Oh my gosh, that is scary, especially with nice skincare, which we all start using as we get older. Okay,
yeah.
let's talk about transportation. So you're getting to the Park Hyatt, which is where you stayed. I think we've talked about that quite a lot, and I'm really excited to hear about it. But were you able to make stops? Was it just a taxi? Was it an Uber? Like what's the protocol here?
Yeah, so we made stops. It was a taxi. We just used a regular taxi stand. We did not prearrange any kind of transportation. And it was great. Our driver was wonderful. He took us to a grocery store. We grabbed some things. He also stopped. There's a great overlook in St. Kitts where the Atlantic Ocean and the Caribbean meet. And it's
Ooh.
very beautiful. They have, a little hashtag St. Kitts signs up there so you can take a picture with the sign. And our taxi driver, I guess they just kind of know that people like stopping there. He did give us the option. He was like, do y'all want to stop for a picture or no? And we did end up stopping. But one thing to note with the taxis, you are going to need cash for all of
Oh.
the taxis. Yes. So you don't need to do any kind of currency exchange. US dollars are fine, but we really underestimated the amount of cash we needed to have with us. I mean, of course you're going to be tipping people. Most people think, okay, I should have some amount of cash. We just totally flubbed on that and ended up getting ourselves into a little bit of a bind by not having cash. But we, at the Park Hyatt, should anyone stay there, they will let you charge money on your credit card and cash out. So they, even though they don't have an ATM, they let us cash out a couple $100 to then use as we needed to.
Now the question is, does that give you points?
I
'Cause
don't think so.
Did you look?
I know.
Because I know that
I
there's
did
a
mean to
gas
look.
station, there's a car wash here where when you go to get the car washed, and I don't, my own car, I just drive through those machines or do it myself. But when I wash my work cars, sometimes we'll go to those fancy places where they vacuum it all out for you. And those places always want cash. So when you go inside to pay for your car wash, they will let you add on an extra 15 or $20 and they charge it and then just give you cash to hand to the people outside. And that codes just like a charge.
Sadly, no. No
Ah!
points. I double checked. No points. I know. I was holding out hope because I was like, hey, we can definitely do this on my card if I'm going to get 9 times points for it because I have a Hyatt card. But no, no,
No.
no,
Does it
no
code as like a
points.
cash advance of some kind?
Right. So it just didn't, I don't see it on my Hyatt account at all. So that's all
Sad.
right.
Well, we tried.
That's right.
Okay, talk about check-in then. You get to this beautiful hotel. Was there a welcoming committee? What was it like?
It has, I have to say, a pretty grand entrance because there's this walkway that opens up into the Caribbean Sea, but lining the walkway is a koi pond. There's
Ugh,
all these fish. So you walk down it, and then there's a beautiful room that I think they call it the living room. It's supposed to be a welcoming space where they do a very casual check in. So they bring you a welcome drink, and you're supposed to kind of just relax and chill while they check you in. Everything is very laid back, very just a relaxed vibe. I think that's the whole vibe of St. Kitts is just chill,
I love it.
which is exactly what you want maybe when you go to a tropical island.
Yes, please. I would love a chill.
Yeah, and the welcome drinks were fantastic, by the way. They had like a rum punch and then they had a fruit punch if you didn't want an alcoholic drink. Delicious. You need to, depending on if you come super fast after your flight leaves and a bunch of people are coming to the Park Hyatt all from the same flight, you could have to wait a little bit at check-in. We really did not have to wait that long, but I've heard that some other people did. Once you check in, they then take you in a golf cart to your room, which is pretty fun, but you may
Ooh.
also have to wait a minute while the golf cart takes someone else and comes back to get you.
Is it pretty far?
You could walk. I mean, after that, we walked every time to and from our room to the lobby, several times. But when you have all your luggage and
Yep.
stuff, it is nice to ride the golf cart.
Yeah, for sure. That's so fun. Okay, so let's talk about the good stuff, which is the room. Okay, you booked one kind of room, ended up in another kind of room. We want to hear all about that, what the cost was, and cost in points, and then reveal the number of the cost in cash, what it would have been had you paid that, which you didn't, because we are here to talk points and miles.
So I booked a standard room for 4 adults. And I didn't even know when I booked it who was coming, but I just booked it and I put 4 adults. So I got a room that had 2 queen beds and it was going to be 35,000 points a night. So for 3 nights, I paid 105,000 points. However, eventually, once I worked my way into a guest of honor award, I applied that to the reservation. I called Hyatt, applied it to the reservation. And so with that, you typically can get an upgrade. Now, the upgrade can vary. And I also did figure out the general manager's email address. I emailed him. I told him how excited we were to be coming, told him about the podcast, that I was going to highlight it on the podcast. And so I don't know if it was just the guest of honor award or my email, a combination of both. But what we ended up with was a rooftop plunge pool suite
So
that,
amazing.
oh my goodness, the cash price would have been over $7,000 for this trip.
For
Even a
3
standard room, though,
nights.
for 3 nights. I don't know who pays that kind of money. Even for a standard room, it would have been $4,300 for 3
Crazy.
nights.
Crazy.
It really was. But we paid in points and it was amazing. So this plunge pool suite, it was, to me, it felt a little bit like an apartment. Like you walk in and it's not just a room,
Mhm,
there's
mhm.
a living room and a little refrigerator. I will say the refrigerator was stocked. So unless you take absolutely everything out, there's not a ton of room for your own groceries. We did take a few things out and replace them before we left, and we weren't charged for anything. So there is a small refrigerator. There's a closet area that really isn't like a closet. It felt more like a mudroom in your
Yeah,
house,
I saw that.
when you come in. So we could leave all our suitcases and stuff there so they didn't actually have to be in the living space.
I
But what
love
I
that.
love, I do too.
So
That was
good.
nice. It's a
Yeah,
small thing that I don't know, you don't think of it as being some kind of fancy thing, but it was a nice touch that I really appreciated about the room.
100%. I hate my stuff in my walking space, taking up the relaxing vibes. I don't want my open suitcase in my way. I love a mudroom in a
Yes.
hotel room. It's not very common unless you're getting these really nice upgrades. So,
Yeah, unless it's a suite. So the other fun thing, it had floor to ceiling windows. And
mhm.
so what we'll call the living room, and then we had the bedroom, and those were side by side. So across all of that were floor to ceiling windows where you could overlook the pool, the grounds of the resort, the Caribbean, and then Nevis, the other sister island in the distance. So it just made for the most epic views when you're lying in bed and you have the curtains open, or at
Mm.
sunrise, sunset. It was beautiful all times a day.
Okay, I have an important question though. How are the curtains? Do they block the light well enough with windows that big? I like darkness. Okay, now I know that you like to creep out of bed at the crack of dawn. I am also an early riser, but I like to sleep a little past you.
No, the curtains were great. They were thick. They had the blackout side too. So
Perfect.
you had no problem with that. Now, saying that, we did wake up ridiculously early, which was fine for me and Heather, less fine for Lindsay, but
Poor
she
Lindsay.
tolerated us. She tolerated us. So one reason it worked was another part of that suite is there's the bathroom, which was just phenomenal, but you have an outdoor space that is private. It's just for you. It's not just the plunge pool. I expected the plunge pool because that's the name of the room. What I didn't expect was how big the deck was going to be,
Yeah.
and it had multiple spots. So all three of us could lie down in different places on the deck and just enjoy that private outdoor space.
So nice. Talk about the plunge pool. Also, talk about the bathroom and the tub. Both of those things. Were they everything that you thought or underwhelming? Was the plunge pool heated? I feel like that's important.
Yes, I'll start with the plunge pool. So that's kind of the dream, right? A
Mhm.
plunge pool suite to me was like, oh, it's like looks like an infinity pool looking over the edge of the resort. This is going to be amazing. And it was beautiful and it was fun. It was not heated.
Oh,
So it was very windy when we were there. We were there obviously in April, the beginning of April, and it just happened to be a very windy week. So it wasn't that the temperature was that chilly otherwise, but without the pool being heated,
yeah.
I got in it. I got in it on principle and I made the most of it on principle. My friends were like, we pass. We pass on that.
Yeah, I think there's nothing worse than being in cold water on a windy day, unless it's like 100 degrees outside. That's
Right.
different. But in April, not so much here. So, okay, talk about that bathtub. Really, that's what I was
Oh,
looking forward
girl.
to.
It was a nice soaking tub. I will say I'm not a bathtub person, and it's a open concept kind of room. I mean, there was divisions and there were walls, and that's something important to note. So we had 3 adults ended up being there. In the living room area, there was a very long sofa. So like a tall man could have laid down and taken a great nap on it. It was a sleeper sofa, and it was actually very comfortable. My
Wow.
friend Heather slept on it, and she was like, I was not ready for how comfortable this sleeper sofa was. And there were walls that you could retract or pull out, separating the living room area and the bedroom to make 2 separate sleeping spaces. So
Oh,
that was really nice.
yeah.
Yeah, that made it all work, I think, because we're adults. Some adults are not into, we're not college students anymore. Sharing bedrooms is, for some people, it's not that fun. I'm okay with it. But just for anyone else out there, you can kind of create some separation.
Good to know. Good to know. Or if you've got your kids in the room and you want them to be on the other side of the wall.
Yeah, yeah. So back to the tub, though. It's not when you're sharing a space with other adults that is not your spouse. Do you want to take a tub bath? They would have to be gone from the room.
Wait, wait,
I'm
wait.
not
Are
a
there not walls around the bathroom?
No, you can't completely close off the bathroom
Oh,
where the tub is. A lot of hotels are like that these days. It's kind of this open concept. Now, the
oh,
shower is tucked into a corner, so you can take a shower without anyone being able to see you. But the bathtub is a little bit more exposed. I'm not a bath
nah.
person. For me, it wasn't an issue.
That's the plunge pool and the bathroom and the bathtub and all the things. Let's talk about an average day. Was it structured with activities? Were you chilling? What kind of things were you doing the days that you were there?
So, like I mentioned, this is a very laid back resort. It is good for true rest and relaxation. In saying that, somehow we still ended up with 20,000 steps a day, which I joked online. I was like, I don't know if we're doing this whole resort vibe quite right, but that's how we roll. So for us, because Heather is a teacher and I'm a nurse, I get to work very early. Both of us are just early birds. So we woke up early by nature. And so we decided to go work out every day before breakfast. So we checked out, they have a 24/7 fitness center. It has everything you need. So we went and would work out. Then we would go to the breakfast buffet. Then we'd work our way to the spa, maybe take a walk along the ocean. And that's kind of how our day went. So in the end, we ended up walking a lot more than probably most people would, but it was nice that our day, it was fun to just have a few days of, well, what do you want to do? All right, let's go do it. There's nothing we
Ah,
have to do.
I love
Let's
that.
just go with what we feel in the moment.
Yeah, that's my favorite. That's my favorite kind of vibe. So relaxing. Can you talk to me a little bit about apparently getting lost in the jungle? I mean, it wasn't a jungle, but I saw these videos and I was like, what is happening right now? This looks terrifying. There's no path,
Okay.
just thorns grabbing you every which way.
We did maybe have the start of a Dateline episode. We almost were murdered in the jungle of St. Kitts, but we made it. We made it. So what had happened was we left the property of the hotel and decided to venture to a coconut farm that is just across the street, not far off the hotel's property, few steps, where you could get, supposedly, Heather was obsessed with getting a fresh coconut, drinking the coconut water, eating some of the meat out of the coconut. My friend Lindsay and I, we were like, we got no love for coconuts, but if that's what you want, we also want to go check out that coconut farm and let's go get you a coconut. So off we went, off the property of the hotel, and we enter the coconut farm, which we thought was open. Turns out it really wasn't open at the time that we ventured onto the property. And rather than turning around, we were like, let's press on. Let's venture around this farm until someone kicks us off. And so that's what we did. We came across a lovely gentleman named Bacchus, and he apparently is the caretaker for the farm. The farmer runs the little shop, if you will, where you can buy fresh coconut or maybe have smoothies or whatever. And he was a gem. He was
Mhm.
an absolute treat. He did not run us off the farm. Instead, he said, "Let's get you a coconut. Come on, let's go get you a
Aw,
coconut." So he chopped down a coconut fresh out of the tree, cut it open for Heather. She drank it straight there, right off the tree.
yum.
Loved it. She was like, "Oh, this one though doesn't have a lot of meat. I kind of wanted one with meat." He's like, "Let's go chop down some more."
Oh my
So he
gosh.
chopped down some coconuts. She had her fill. It ended up being one of those situations where he was like, "Oh, try this one. Try it." And she was like, I'm good. I've had a lot. I've had a lot of coconut."
I'm full.
And
All
he
done.
was just so sweet. And then we kept seeing different plants and trees that we were like, "Ooh, what's this?" He's like, "Oh, that's cherries. Have some." So we would just pick fresh cherries off the tree and eat them. And he took us all around the property. Apparently, this farm is owned by the owner of one of the restaurants nearby that we ate at multiple nights. They use this farm to get fresh ingredients for the restaurant.
Love that. So, why wasn't it open though? Is it usually open to the public and it just was closed this particular
Yes.
day? Okay.
There are hours, but it's like very middle of the day, maybe like 11 to 2, and we got there at
Oh,
say 2:30 or something. Like and maybe even I think we even got there before 2, but it was close to 2. And so things were kind of winding down, but he was wonderful. We saw monkeys running around the property, which he was not happy to see because they're a nuisance, you know.
yep.
They give him all kinds of trouble, but for us, we were like, "There's a monkey." And it was so exciting. So he tolerated us wanting to see the monkeys, and it was a real treat. But after the coconut farm, we walked over to the beach, which was walkable from the farm. And this is where things went awry. We decided to try to walk back to the Park Hyatt a different way. Let's go a different way. We think that this will stretch around and connect to the Park Hyatt. It did not. We turned around, and then when we were like, "Oh, look at this small beaten trail that goes up into this forest. It must go up and over to the Park Hyatt. That's got to be what it is. It's people have beat down this little trail. Let's go for an adventure. We're gonna find it." Mm, well, it did not. It led to a dead end in the middle of the woods. And as we twirled around and we're like, "Okay, we're in the middle of the woods," and start walking back, all of a sudden, this man is tucked away into the woods. He has like a chair and a little umbrella, but it's tucked into the middle of the woods, like way off. We did not even see him when we went past him the first time, only when we came back the second time. And he was like, "Are you lost?" And we all jumped. We all jumped. We were like, "This is when we get murdered." But we were like, we're good. And we picked up the pace and we sprinted out of there. And we're like, not our brightest moment. We probably shouldn't go on random trails, unmarked trails that we don't know where they're going.
Okay, when you said that it was the start of a Dateline episode, I thought it was just a joke because he kind of got lost. I had no idea there was another person involved in this story. That's so scary.
Yes,
Hey, it was probably just a very nice gentleman, most likely sitting on his own
for sure.
property, enjoying the woods as one does. But horrifying
Yes.
when you're not expecting it and you're already lost and you don't know where you are. Oh my goodness.
It was fun. It made for a good little, afternoon adventure. And then we did find ourselves back safely at the Park Hyatt.
Well, that's great news. That's great news. Okay, let's talk breakfast because you did have a guest of honor, which means that you guys got free breakfast while you were there. And a lot of times this only extends to 2 people, but you had 4 people on your reservation. So they were fine with everybody having free breakfast.
Yep, everybody had free breakfast. We had some confusion because the first day they came around, they asked, "Do you want something else to drink?" And we weren't sure if the espresso or the lattes, the little bit nicer than just straight poured coffee,
Mm-hmm.
were going to be included.
Yeah.
And at first, we got a couple things that first morning, and then later I saw those on my bill separate, and I thought, dang it, like
Mm.
we weren't trying to spend extra money, like it's fine, it was good, we'll pay for it, but our goal was to just enjoy what was free and what was included.
Yeah.
However, the good news is, although I didn't realize it till we were about to leave, later those things did drop off the bill. And so we didn't actually pay for them.
And you think that was probably because of the guest of honor that they dropped those
I
off?
do.
Okay.
I do, because it was very similar to when we were at the Baha Mar, the
Yeah.
Grand Hyatt Baha Mar. And similar things happened where you think you might end up having to pay a little something because maybe it's slightly over the allotted breakfast credit.
Yeah.
But then in the end, it all came off.
They
So
just
we were
took it.
very pleased with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
they just took it off. The buffet was great. It was big. There was an array of options. So there was an omelet station. You could get a fresh omelet. There were stations that had local things. Like one morning, there was plantains and fish, not just traditional American breakfast foods. Those were available as well. Eggs and bacon and sausage and that kind of stuff, pancakes. Then there was an area where there were all kinds of fresh pastries, and I made it my
Mhm.
mission to try
Yep.
every single one.
Oh, yeah.
and and they were different each day, so that was fun. There was a section, there were also very European breakfast options with lunch meats and the beans. And so they really did a great job of kind of catering to world travelers, everybody. There was definitely something that everybody could enjoy. There were some gluten-free options that were
Mhm.
labeled that way. It was everything that you would hope would be in a full breakfast buffet.
Oh, I love it. And I'm so hungry right now. So that all sounds extra delicious. So you also mentioned the spa, but you guys didn't actually pay for the spa. So how do you utilize a spa without paying for it? Because we all know spa services can really get up there in cost.
Yes, and the spa services at the Park Hyatt are not cheap, not cheap. I can tell you that, because we did look into, maybe having a massage or something, and that takes willingness to truly splurge with the budget.
Yep.
And we are budget travelers, so we're all about free included amenities.
Hmm.
And I do feel like sometimes we overlook a spa because we think it's all things that you have to pay for, and we don't realize that there are elements of a spa that might be included. And that was the case with the Park Hyatt. So they had a plunge pool. There was a private area that had a plunge pool. And the thing I liked about this plunge pool was there were walls around it in a way that blocked the wind. So whereas on our
Oh,
deck, it was windy, a little too chilly maybe, this pool was in an area that was warmer and didn't have that wind problem.
nice.
Yeah. And then what we did was we had this little cycle, because right by that plunge pool, they have a steam room, then they have a dry sauna, and then they have an outdoor shower. So
Oh,
you could
so
take a dip in
good.
the plunge pool, kind of like a cold pool, although it wasn't truly a cold pool, but it's like a cold plunge, hop into the steam room, dry sauna, outdoor shower. And so we kind of cycled through those things. Plus, they had some lounge chairs. So if somebody didn't want to go back into the sauna, maybe they're claustrophobic and not really a big fan of a tight space.
Who are we talking
Just
about?
saying. Who are we talking about here? I could lay on a lounge chair while my friends enjoyed the small, tight, warm spaces.
Perfect. I absolutely love an outdoor shower more than anything in the entire world. So
Yes.
that one would have been a winner for me. I would have spent a lot of time down there. There's nothing like it, really. Amazing.
One random thing at the shower, they had razors there. They had hair dryers and like a whole locker room where you could get dressed. And so I forgot my razor. I realized it on the flight on the way down. So one of the things I bought at at the grocery store was another razor. And once I got there, I was like, oh, I didn't need to do that because there were free ones in the spa.
Park Hyatt
So
just provides it for
there
you.
you that's
Amazing.
right.
All right, well, let's talk food. Um, did you go on property for food, off property? Talk to us about food costs. I'm sure it's not going to be pretty for any on property food options.
Yeah, so that was our mindset going in. I don't know, do we want to pay, an extra high price tag to stay on the resort for meals. That's just not really our kind of thing. So the first night, we decided to go to a restaurant. We had traveled that day. We were like, let's just take a taxi, go to a restaurant that was recommended by a listener, actually, in our Facebook group when I asked for recommendations. He recommended the Lotus Thai Bistro.
Mm,
And so
I
we were
love
like,
Thai food.
I do too. And my husband doesn't like Thai. So anytime I'm with girlfriends or eating out without him, I always try to eat Thai because we don't do it as a family. So we took the chance to go eat Thai, and we thought the restaurant, I looked at the menu ahead of time, and do note whether if you look at menus when you're at home planning ahead, note whether they're in US dollars or the local currency. I didn't realize that, and I thought, wow, this is crazy expensive for some Thai food. And then I realized it wasn't in US dollars. So
Ah,
make that connection in your brain first. But with the cost of the taxi from the Park Hyatt, it actually ended up being kind of expensive. And I don't actually know that it was worth it if you have to pay for a taxi to go off property versus just enjoying the hotel restaurants.
right.
I mean, we liked it. It was fun. We met a fantastic taxi driver that we ended up like really bonding with. He was amazing. Turns out he is from Nevis, the island across the way. He has a music school there where he teaches people music
Oh,
several days a week. And then he does the taxi on St. Kitts the other days of the week. His name was Ruvid. He was awesome. Love Ruvid. Shout out to Ruvid. We got his WhatsApp number and we were texting him after that in case we needed a taxi again. He was going to be our go to guy. But he took us, but with the price of the meal and the taxi, I don't think it really ended up being worth it. So the next 2 nights, we were like, we're either going to stay on property or something that we can walk to.
mm,
And I mentioned being able to walk down the beach a little ways. You have to kind of go out of the Park Hyatt property and around, but then you can walk down Reggae Beach.
okay.
And there's a Reggae Beach bar and grill on the end of that little strip of beach. And we loved the vibe there, the atmosphere. It's exactly what you're wanting to experience on a Caribbean island. On Friday nights, they have a lobster fest. We first went
Ooh.
on I know. Well, everyone told us about it. Every single taxi driver was like, "Are you going to Lobster Fest? Are you going to Lobster Fest?" It's like what everyone knows happens on Friday nights in St. Kitts. So went there on a Thursday night originally, and it was actually closing. We barely got there in time. So that's something to
Oh,
note.
no thirsty
We,
Thursday there.
no Thirsty Thursday. So we got there. We were trying to do kind of what is it when a lunch and supper are together? Lupper, or, what's a word when you almost like brunch, but for lunch and dinner combined?
Linner.
Linner. There we go. We'll go with Lupper or Linner, whichever one you want. And so that's what we were going for. So we got there, I don't know, maybe it was like 4:30, 4:35. It was a little late, but it wasn't even 5 o'clock and they were closing. But they
Oh,
let us sit down. They ushered us in. They were so nice, very friendly. And they were like, you got to come back tomorrow night for a lobster fest. Do you want us to make a reservation? And at the time, we didn't know if we were going to go that route. But eventually we did end up going back to Lobster Fest.
oh my gosh. Did you have lobster? Do you even eat
Okay.
lobster, my friend?
I don't.
Uh-huh. I should have known.
You had a feeling. But Heather and Lindsay eat lobster, and so they loved it. You had a choice of a couple meats. You could choose 2 or 3 meats and included lobster, a fresh fish. It also had a pulled barbecue meat, chicken, or ribs. I've heard the ribs also, we got told that the
Oh,
ribs were really great there as
ribs.
well. So yeah, there's a lot of good options, not just seafood. And then there's a buffet of sides. So you get to go up to the buffet, and those are all real local sides, things grown at the coconut farm that we explored.
Oh.
So it's a fun place. Now, if you're a very, very picky eater like myself, it's not for you, but it can be for your friends and for drinks and for a sunset over the water, live music. They had a band set up playing. It was amazing. And it was packed. I mean, everyone knows you go to Lobster Fest on Friday night.
Oh my gosh, I love this so much. But you didn't have trouble getting a reservation.
Well, we didn't end up making a reservation,
Oh,
and we should have. When we got there, they were like, "Excuse me, you don't have a reservation?" And we remembered the name of the person who had helped us last time. So we threw out the name. We were like, "Oh, she told us to come back tonight." So they kind of rolled their eyes and they had a seat for us. So they made it work, but
Whew.
they do prefer you make a reservation.
Okay, good to know. But it sounds like there would have been one had you made it the night prior. So
Yes.
it's
Yes,
not like you have to be
absolutely.
looking at it 3 months in advance to get your Lobster Fest reservation.
No, you can definitely get one. We just had commitment phobia. We didn't know what we were going to do.
Mhm.
And then we just ended up thinking, wow, that really was a lot of fun. Let's go back tomorrow night. So,
Amazing. Okay, let's talk about the island of Nevis, which we've mentioned a few times now. Did you go over there? Can you go over there? How easy is that? Are there other fun things to do?
yeah, so Nevis is really easy to access. You can go from the Park Hyatt. They have a water taxi that will pick you up at the Park Hyatt. However, the same water taxi will also do a pickup at Reggae Beach, right by that bar and grill, and it's half the price. So if you're willing to walk down to Reggae Beach, you will pay literally half the price of the markup of going from the Park Hyatt.
What a tip.
Yep, for sure. So I would recommend doing that. If you have tiny kids and you really just can't put up with it and you have enough money, then whatever. Go from the Park Hyatt. It's super easy. And fun fact about Nevis. So it's a tiny little island. Couple fun facts. I knew of Nevis for probably the last 15 years or so ago is when I first heard about it because I was a teacher up in Boston and I had Grace and Maeve were the names of these two little girls that I adored. I taught Grace in second grade and I babysat for their family. And they had a place on Nevis.
Oh,
And
wow.
so they would always talk about going to Nevis. I didn't even know where that was. I couldn't have picked it out on a map at all. But I always wanted to go ever since talking to them because it was just fun to hear of this magical tropical land somewhere that they always went to. So it was really cool for me to be there and see Nevis. And another fun fact for Hamilton fans, you're a Hamilton
I
fan.
took Juliet to see it in Chicago for her birthday 2 years ago. It was amazing.
Yeah, I knew
Mhm.
the musical theater in you. How could you not be a Hamilton
How
girl?
Yep, you called it.
So Alexander Hamilton was from the
Mhm.
tiny.
Sorry.
Oh, do you want to sing? Do an interlude.
No, that's okay. We'll just leave it at
Okay.
that little hum, but I can't hear the words Alexander Hamilton without singing it.
Oh, I know of
Oh, you
Hamilton,
haven't heard the
but
music?
I don't know the music. I have heard it in the car with my niece and my sister sometimes, but shamefully, I don't know it.
Hmm.
But I do know that people love it. And Alexander Hamilton was from the island of Nevis, the tiny
Oh,
island.
cool.
So that's kind of their claim to fame now. They have a little museum there about him and Neva's history. Um, so it's a great place to hop on over on the water taxi. The water taxi is only like 5 minutes. It's not a
Oh,
long
wow.
taxi. I mean, you're very close to Nevis. You see it just across the way. So that's a fun thing to do for a day. There's some fun little restaurants, bars around Nevis. You can do some excursions there as well. So take that into consideration when you're planning your trip.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds so fun. Okay, so you were there on a girls' trip, but let's talk about this in terms of maybe families wanting to go there. What were the amenities like? Is this really a place that's good for kids and families? I mean, you guys were just talking about the Baha Mar, and that's like made for kids and families, I think.
Right.
So I would love to hear your professional opinion on, is this a place for your family? Or is this just a romantic or a girls' trip place?
The whole time we were there, I kept thinking about it. And at first, when we were going, I thought this is definitely like a couples getaway or girls' trip, like an adults only kind of vibe.
Mm.
And then once I was there, I realized for chill families, this could absolutely work. There were some kids there. There weren't a ton of kids there, but there were some kids there. And there's a ton that kids can enjoy. So I've changed my tune. I now have a whole argument for why I think it could be fantastic for families.
Okay.
So I know, I'm ready. I'm prepared to give it to you.
Ready, go.
So there is a giant chessboard out by the pool where you can pick up the big chess pieces and play. My son would love that. There's a giant shuffleboard. My family loves games. We would absolutely play shuffleboard out by the pool. I saw table hockey.
Oh, wow.
There were paddle boards. There were tubes that you could swim in the ocean with inner tubes. There was a kids club, which the week that we were there really wasn't being used at all. But we did learn from the staff on property that the week before, there were a bunch of big groups there that did have kids. And so the kids club was kind of hopping.
Mm.
So it depends on maybe what week you're there. There's basketball courts, there's pickleball courts. You could also go on excursions like jet skis from Reggae Beach. You could go hike up the volcano on St. Kitts. You could hop over, like we just mentioned, to Nevis for the day. So there actually is a lot to do. It's not a big commercial island that's flashy like,
Yeah.
there's no big water park like Baha Mar. So it's definitely a more laid back kind of activities, and you have to be able to make your own fun and really utilize what's there for you. But so at first glance you think, okay, this is not for kids. But then if you really think about it, it's like, okay, for maybe 3 days, it really is. There's a lot you could do. I
Yeah.
don't think I would go there for a whole week with my family. My family it would be too much, too
Yeah.
long for them.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. It sounds amazing. It sounds like a great place to take um teens or preteens who aren't so into the family activities and outings anymore
Yes.
and are looking more for that lounge kind of vacation.
Oh yeah.
Because I have one of those, I tried to cram a lot into that San Diego trip, and pulling her out of bed before noon every day was like pulling teeth. So this sounds like the perfect vibe for my family, actually. Maybe we'll have to
Yeah,
look into
I
that.
think Juliet would like it. The other thing that I realized was using that plunge pool suite, how perfect it would have been if I had my children,
Yeah.
because my kids wake up early. My husband is a night owl. He doesn't want to wake up early. And having that outdoor space, that private outdoor deck,
Oh,
I could have
yes.
just gone right outside with the kids and spent an hour or two out there with them while he got to still sleep. So I
Yep.
think if families can somehow work their way into that upgrade or have enough points to book it off the get-go, or, however you book it, that actually would be perfect for families.
Yeah, yeah, game changer. That was my secret for cruise ships when my daughter was little. Book the balcony room, and then you guys sit on the balcony while your child falls asleep, since a cruise ship room is the smallest thing you've ever seen in your life, and putting a child to bed while you're both just sitting in the room with them is a nightmare. So those balconies and decks, game changer. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need an overall rating, closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts. It was beautiful.
Mm,
It was it was such a perfect break for 3 moms who are right in the heat of the back half of the school year is just really busy.
so much.
May ramps up big time. So it was such a blessing to have a couple days to like go away, reset, laugh together, and kind of refuel. And the Park Hyatt St. Kitts was a really perfect spot for that.
Yes.
So I loved it for a girls' trip. I would love it with my husband. And like I said, I would even love it with family. Just you have to know that it is nothing like Grand Hyatt Baha Mar and one of those big flashy resorts. It is very much more quiet. I do think that me and my friends we were a little too loud. At times I was like, oh my gosh, our voices are probably booming. Our laughter and our ridiculous conversations are booming across. Probably everyone at this resort is hearing every word that we're saying.
Well,
And that's probably in my head. That was my self-consciousness. But
I mean, maybe it's a good thing I wasn't there, because we all know who has the true booming voice of this group. People have let us know. So, but I think that quiet vibe sounds delightful. You can go to Cancun whenever.
right.
You can experience the more festive vibe anytime. I like this a little more for just that. We need a little break. We're not going to pack it
Yes.
full every second doing excursions. We're just going to take some time and enjoy the sunshine and enjoy each other and go with the
We
flow.
saw some baby moons happening. It was cute
Oh,
little couples, and the wife was pregnant. It'd be perfect spot for that. I do
yeah.
think 3 or 4 nights is a sweet spot. I
Yeah,
think that may be all you need, but it's wonderful. It's luxurious. It's great that it's so close to the US, so it's not a really long flight, especially if you're going from the East Coast. It's a hidden gem, I think.
absolutely. Well, I am sad that I missed it, but I am so glad that you had such an amazing time. And it is very fun to finally hear all of the things in real time, to put a story with everything I've seen on your Instagram. So, everybody make sure you head over to Family Travel for the Win with the number 4 so you can kind of catch up on anything that you might not have seen from this trip. And if you have any questions about doing this trip yourself, make sure you join us in our Facebook group. Links for everything are in the description. And I just want everybody to kind of conceptualize this a little bit, okay? Especially with your upgrade, $7,300 worth of value here for this stay. With the current Chase Sapphire Preferred offer, the 100,000 points, plus the spend that you have to do to get it, which is $5,000, you would have the exact amount of points necessary to do this trip. It was 105,000 points for 3 nights. And because of the upgrade, which, by the way, even without a guest of honor, you can sometimes email and get an upgrade. So you don't have to totally be like, oh, I'm never going to get a guest of honor. That's not going to happen for me. And also remember, just the basic room was 4,300. Okay.
Yes.
The incredible value here and the fact that you can do it with one sign up bonus right now while it's elevated is crazy. So, we're going to put some links in the show notes for you guys if you still want to take advantage of this offer. It's running until May 12th. So, the clock is now ticking down on that ending. If this is the right choice for you, if this is the right time, this is an offer that I would personally not want to miss. So,
No.
last order of business. Don't forget to rate and review. This helps us so much, guys. It helps the algorithm. It helps us be seen. All you have to do from Apple Podcasts is scroll down from our main podcast page on Apple Podcasts. At the bottom, you'll find an empty 5 stars and a place to leave a written review if you want. On Spotify, it's a little different. In the upper right-hand corner, there are 3 dots. You click on those 3 dots and it will say leave a rating. They don't have a spot on Spotify to leave written reviews, unfortunately. But that helps us so much. It takes 5 seconds. So if you listen on either of those platforms and you can help us out like that, we so appreciate you guys. Mary Ellen, thank you for sharing this
Yes.
beautiful trip with all of us.
It's been my pleasure. And the whole time we were so sad that you weren't there. We talked about you all the time. We just had a moment, okay? We had a moment where we prayed for you. We remembered you. You weren't dead. It sounds like you were dead.
A little vigil in
A little
remembrance.
vigil. Held a vigil for Joanna. But we just it was great, and we're already planning next year. We've just decided that every spring we're doing a girls trip, so you'll be on the
I
next
sure
one,
will.
and it's going to be even better.
I 100% will be there. I cannot wait. Love you. And all of you out there listening, we love you guys as well. And we will see you here next time.
Bye, guys.
If you enjoyed this show today, please consider writing us a review or clicking 5 stars wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please subscribe and follow along so that you never miss an episode.
You can follow the podcast on Instagram or YouTube at Wonderland on Points Podcast. You can find me on Instagram at Family Travel for the Win with the number 4.
And you can find me on Instagram at Points to Wonderland.
If you're thinking about getting a new travel rewards credit card, consider using the links in our show notes. Using our links helps to support us and keep our podcast going so we can provide you with all the latest tips and tricks when it comes to traveling on points.
And if you aren't sure which card is right for you, shoot us an email at wonderlandonpoints@gmail.com. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you here next time.